So welcome to the Node.js Next 10 meeting for July 6, 2022. We'll start with the agenda as was in the issue, which was 138. Let me just open that up and I can even share my screen. Hold on. And actually, while we do this, I'm just going to copy the stream link so I don't have to do that later. And
yeah, and I think we did have two main topics. One about our communication channel about JavaScript newsletter and pretty much everything, and also another one which is a feedback from the mini summit we held during the Node.js conferences.
Yep. Right. So yeah. So there. I don't know if there's any. If you have any, Jacques, you have any announcements this week or anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I don't really have something special on that part. Nothing really to add. I will just add myself on the present people.
Yep. Yeah, you want to add it up there.
Yeah.
Put the rest of the details. Okay, so yeah, so as you mentioned, I think we can look at these kinds of things, but then I think the other one is like mini summit recap and next steps. So create the communications channel. This one, I think we're just kind of waiting on the foundation. Now I know they've had some people who were coming or going, or there was an issue here where this one. Maybe I'll just post here. So basically just adding a comment to see if like maybe we're ready to start that up, say. The next one was suitable types mini summit deep dive and next step. So let's look at that one.
Yeah, just before that, on the communication channel, I was just thinking right now, because I just got the notification of the live stream. Should we try to have something to have some automation when any kind of let's say meeting here occurred, to have a tweet about it? Because I think a lot of people are not aware first of the calendar of this kind of meeting, but also to have an easy way, because I know you post it sometime. I also do post the link sometime for the meeting, but it could be great, maybe Node.js or OpenJS Foundation, some automatic stuff to say, if you want to join us, here's the Zoom link, and if you want to listen, you can join the YouTube account or something like that.
Right. Okay. What I think would be good on that front is to open an issue in tweet. Like right now, the way to sort of asks for tweets, or maybe it's like in social. So maybe like an issue here to say, is this, because I think the first conversation needs to be, is like, is the social team happy to have the Node.js account tweet all that stuff out?
Yeah.
I personally think it would be great, but I think the discussion there. So if you want to open an issue there to sort of say, hey, could we get tweets? And I think you're thinking like in advance, right?
Yeah, we could have something in advance. Also, maybe every, I don't know, Monday, to have a tweet which will recapitulate every meeting we will have for the weeks, for the current week. But also maybe 1 hour before with some information, because I know that a lot of people are not aware of the calendar link, which is
right.
A bit hidden when you go, at least on the Node.js website. You don't really have a lot of information on that part. So I think it would be better and could be part of this kind of initiative to gather more people to communicate and just discuss about Node.js and the community part, which would be great.
Weekly one would actually be good, I think, for sure.
Okay, so do you want me to open an issue on social team? Okay.
Yeah, why don't you open an issue on the social team and make a suggestion of like, could we get a tweet? You know, what do you think of a tweet once a week that announces like all of the meetings? I'm just thinking like that would be easier to manage than the one that's like an hour before, because like then if it doesn't work, there's a problem, there's more. So starting with one which is like, hey, here's the upcoming meetings for the week. That's actually a nice reminder. And
oh yeah, could be great.
Yeah,
I will open that. I wasn't even aware of this team, social team, so I will open an issue on that one.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm just thinking like the automation that we have to that should be like automating, that shouldn't be that hard, I think, even. So if we had agreement to do it, it would be.
Yeah, and I think we can also, I'm not really sure about that. I did not work with the API, but I think on YouTube, you can have some kind of API notification, which you can link with, I don't know how, to tweet automatically when someone starts a stream and get both the stream name and maybe the content or something like that. If we want to tweet about this meeting is starting right now.
Yeah, okay, well, that's another one. So I would include that at like, hey.
Yeah, I will include both, but at least at the start of a summary of the week first, I think would be a great idea.
The question will be like, do people think that we should have a tweet for every meeting that goes out or not? And but yeah, outlining those two, like one which is the weekly one, because that would be like less chatty, right? And then as a different options, that could be automated off of YouTube. That would be interesting too.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds good. John, well, open issue in Node.js social team 2. Let's wait for weekly heads up meeting of meetings. Yeah, because those are two things that could get more general, involvement, people showing up, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
drive awareness. Okay, yeah, good idea. Okay, so anything else on that one before we move to the next one?
No, that's good.
Okay, so go here. Oops, I obviously didn't paste correctly. Suitable types. Okay, so suitable types. There was, interesting on this topic. There was more discussion at the summit in terms of things that we should do.
Yeah.
Right, and so I think these are all still useful things, but we should probably have a more general. And for some reason, I think I started something.
Yeah, I think we should open an issue to track every changes. Not sure. I think we created one. Is it this one?
I started to basically create this to say, okay, this is, and maybe we can kind of get into that discussion. Is like, okay, I think, we've got a few more deep dives, or ones that we haven't done the deep dive for, so maybe we can do that. But I think it makes sense for, this team now to be like, okay, let's look at our summary of the technical priorities we've agreed, where the status is and what's going on, and just sort of see, like, try to see how we can help move the different initiatives forward. The questions, okay, so that's actually, I think it's worth looking at this one and maybe working on it a little bit if if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So modern HTTP, I think we had the deep dive. We PR'd into the contributing sort of the project agreement of note fetch landed in core. I think that one, in terms of like forward progress, it's maybe a matter of like having a sync sometime or something would be a next step, but maybe we can.
Yeah,
I don't think that's urgent to do now, right?
No, true, but I think we will have some discussion we will need to have, which is not just on fetch, but it was just a way to have some information. I saw a lot of people complain about fetch being too strict, let's say following the standard on this one, on some header and other topic.
Yep.
I think we will need to have some kind of discussion linked to that. Maybe not just for fetch, but what do we want to implement? Because on my side, and I didn't really talk about on the issue, but I talked during the summit on that. For me, it's a bit strange, even if, let's say 99% of the people wanted this change to happen because they had issue with header. For me, it's a bit strange to allow not compliant RFC implementation on Node core. And I think that's at least something we need to discuss to define what would be the limit on what we want to push inside, but it's a global issue on Node.js, just not on fetch and HTTP, at least at first.
Like how different should our spec, if there's a spec. Now, I think the trick is, though, that some of the specs, you can't be spec compliant in a non-browser environment. So then what do you do? And yeah, no, that is a good conversation to have.
Yeah, but I think we will also need to have some part on the documentation side. I didn't check the fetch documentation since it landed in core. I don't think I saw a lot of changes. Maybe I'm wrong. I didn't have time to check on that part. But at least we will need to document that on both the documentation part and other part we find interesting to have more information about. We try to follow the standard, but we are not fully able to follow it because of X reason of that part.
Yeah.
Because for me, it should be documented that 100% of the standard is not followed. Even if I agree or don't agree about that, it's another issue, but we should document that, because if people want to use this part and are not aware of the change, which, to be honest, will be lost for most of the people in the next 2 months, they won't remember that. We need to have a tracking, at least an issue on that part.
Yeah. Agreed. So that's like, it's kind of what I think we need to figure out is like, how do we track what we think? Like in this case, for the suitable types, we have an issue which is documented next steps, right? Ideally, for each of these, we either are like, well, we're good now, or we have documented next steps.
Yeah.
So this is maybe a first copy of this, but like what we want to work towards is like, okay, what are the documented next steps for each of these?
Yeah.
So like documentation, WebAssembly, deep.esm. So this one, I guess this actually landed, so I can.
Yeah, I think this one you can link the merge request you did following the OpenJS Collaborator Summit, I think.
Yeah, let me just get that.
Because yeah, I think I validated the pull request. I have to check this one. Sorry, I do not have a lot of time lately, but I will check. I will try to check everything during the end of the week.
Right. So yeah, some meetings. And this would be Summit June, right?
Yeah.
And I think the same goes for this.
Yeah.
Actually, I might as well just. Okay. So, okay, let's go back. So we've got a deep dive. We can look from like, do all of them have deep dives is one question. So ESM. So support for features from the latest ECMAScript spec. That one, you know, I did talk to Michael Zasso, and I think I mean, from our perspective, and I think his perspective, and I agree. I'm not sure that, you know, what we would discuss in the deep dives. Like basically we get the features from the latest ECMAScript from the
V8 implementation each time.
From the V8 implementation, and he helps keep that fairly up to date. We could probably do more to help, you know, he would like more people to help out with that, but there's nothing that like we need a discussion in terms of strategy or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't remember when we were talking about that like 1 year ago. I think we did have some kind of discussion about trying to implement also spec which are not yet ECMA compliant, which mean stage like 2 or 3 or something like that.
Right.
I think we talked a bit of that, so I don't remember exactly what it was about, but maybe this discussion will be about should we try to implement work in progress spec, which is some kind of other discussion than implementing V8 new stuff. And I know V8 also implements some stage 2, stage 3 implementation from the ECMA standard.
Yeah.
So do we want to implement some other stuff on top of that? And I think we will have some issue when both the Node.js core and V8 will implement the same function differently before it's standardized. So I think we should have also a discussion about in that part.
Yeah, I guess I doubt there'll be much appetite for implementing things instead of waiting for V8.
Yeah,
like in terms of language features anyway, right?
Yeah, true, because most of the time, let's say, at least in the past 2 years, V8 was quite fast on implementing new stuff. So,
yeah.
And now that we have fetch in core, I think we don't have a lot of difference between pure V8 browser compatible function and Node.js core. Or I don't think about something which is really used in one environment and not on the other one. So I don't think we'll have a lot of issue, but should we have a discussion about that?
I think like fetch isn't part of the JavaScript spec though, right?
I don't remember. Our fetch is maybe not in the ECMA part, but I think it's on the W3C. I don't remember exactly where the fetch spec is defined, but I think it's maybe more. What I was saying. I think fetch is more on the W3C than on ECMA part. Yeah.
Right. So that's where like it doesn't, you know, that's a case where it's not going to come in through the V8 implementation. So we do deal with it, think about it separately. But the things from V8, like our approach has pretty much been we just wait for V8 to implement them. There are people who are active in the TC39.
Yeah.
What would be interesting is, although it might still be worth documenting that somewhere.
Yeah.
Think about that, like sort of in our collaborator guide. It might be worth having something to document what the status quo is there, right? So.
Yeah, could be useful at least for newcomer on the ecosystem, or just also for multiple working group when we want to implement something new. At least we do have something written as a standard rule.
Yeah,
we try to follow at least. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So so that's. So we did the deep dive on observability. We've done one on the security model.
I think we did add some upper on the page. We did add something about documentation. If you want to update this one to add some ruling, or I don't know how to say it, some kind of linear line. Yeah, just yeah.
So yeah, here, what's your suggestion?
Should we add a comment here to say that we want to not link to the deep dive, but do we want to add a line about what we were saying, that we want to have some part of, at least one part of the documentation on some part to say that we want to follow, or how we want to decide when we implement something new, following ECMAScript or something like that?
I would, yeah, like, so, okay, so, but that would be under, right.
Could be on the ESM part, because I think
yeah, okay,
yeah, I think you do have a part on ECMAScript something on the page. I don't remember. Yeah,
so here, okay, so basically under related, that didn't work. It's not gonna work either. Okay. Makes sense. So I think the only sort of remaining deep dive would be better multi-threaded support is like, if we look at where we had deep dives or not.
Sure, I think that the only topic we didn't really address on the past two summits.
Yeah.
But do we have a lot? I don't remember what was the input of other people around that, but the multi-threaded support, I don't remember a lot of people that were talking about it, and how, on, let's say, what kind of use cases we wanted to improve that.
I think it was around maybe making the ergonomics better was what I remembered.
Oh, okay, so it was about the worker part, or was it about how to fork and?
I think it was in part around workers, but the general, the general thing is that, like, having good multi-threaded support is important, and we're not quite done yet, was kind of the take that I understood.
Yeah, could be an interesting topic to try to deep dive. Also, I will just use my case on that part. I don't use a lot of multi-threading, but to be honest, I did some work on that, and it's quite hard when you try to want to maybe do some log and see in which thread you have information, or which thread is loading or logging something, but also how to pass some information between multiple threads.
Right.
But I don't remember. Yeah, so maybe it could be at least some base topic, or maybe we want to organize some kind of collaborator summit on that. I don't know about the Node.js Node.js European conference near Dublin. Do you have more information if we are able to do a summit there? Or
we're certainly working on it, so I expect it's going to happen. But the question would be, do we want to wait till then, or do we want to do like a virtual one like we did before?
We can do that, but in that case, I think August would be a bad timing for that. So would be September, and I think the conference is just 1 month after that. So
yeah, that's a good point. So you're right. We might as well just wait.
I'm thinking, yeah, true. Maybe it will be a bit harder for people from America, let's say, to join us on this meeting, but I think maybe not all, but some people will be there in Ireland in October.
Yeah.
So maybe at least we should try to have a good, let's say, better setup on online communication, at least.
Yeah.
To have something a bit better for that. But I think it would be better for most of us to be there in, let's say, Dublin, because I don't know where it will be held, but I think it could be better to be in person and not just online.
Yeah, no, I think just from timing, it makes sense to do it then, because you're right. It's like by the time summer's over, it's the right place to view.
Because most of the time we won't have a lot of people in August, and in September pretty much everyone was coming back to the office, had a lot of different topic and pretty much everything. So October seems to be a good timing from that. And I think we did the last one during the summit. So if we had 3 months, it should be mid-September. We can add 2 weeks on that. Should be okay.
Right. And it's probably definitely
But I think I don't remember when we did the last survey. Should we try to use this time during summer to send another survey? Because I think the last one was at least a year ago. So to have feedback from the community member on how, if they do have other topic they want us to address or to work on.
right. Yeah, I mean that's maybe a separate issue. It's like maybe it's
Yeah. Should be a separate issue, but I'm not thinking about it as you are writing that. So
yeah, that leaves. Okay, so I'm gonna create that issue. We can put that in then to here, which is like that's single executable. deep dive. So I think that's this one. There's a PR with some work going on. So yeah, if you can take a look at this and maybe we can, land a first step there. I guess the other thing too is maybe out of in here, we can look at. Where is it? Sweet. Right, so ESM, there was the notes, I think.
Yeah, we spoke about a lot of work about loader, which should fix a lot of issue people are having around ESM.
Yep.
So maybe we should try to open, maybe not today, but at least in the future, we need to open an issue to try to follow how work is being done on that subject.
Right, so basically.
But maybe not open it. I don't think we should. I'm not sure we should open it in the next 10 repository, maybe more on. I don't know who is handling and working on the VM module.
Right. I think what I was going to do is just add that into ESM.
Yeah, related work on.
Yeah.
I think ESM was on upper. I think you do have something more about ESM.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So. So I think we want to figure out what that would look like. Like I think it's possibly like a feature request. So we could create an issue which is the feature request and has, probably the value could be like creating that feature request, putting in the details and context that would have enough information for what needs to happen. And then, some promotion about like, can we making it like say, hey, this is one of the things which is important in terms of, moving the ESM thing forward, and maybe that helps get some.
Yeah, you're right on that part. Yeah, totally agree on that one. Should we also, I don't know how we work directly between, let's say, the Node.js team and ECMA/W3C. Should we try to push our way? Because it seems that this issue is really linked to JavaScript as a backend solution, not really a front-end one linked to loader and stuff like that. So should we try to not to discuss with other people about creating a standard? Because if I remember right, we don't really have a standard on, let's say, on top level about loader for everyone. And it should be great to, if in the future we do also have some loader requirement from front-end application, but also maybe Dino or Bun right now or other stuff. Should we try to define something or to work on defining a global solution or way to handle that? Because if not, I think we will have the same issue as CommonJS, AMD, and everything linked to module and loader.
True, trying to get a standard is a whole different type of work than actually implementing it. I think like my take is like the loaders and the diagnostics channel, there are people working on it, it's active. And, those things are likely to, maybe they're not moving as forward as fast. So if like, if there was more people who were interested to help out, that would be great. But it's progressing and moving forward, and we'll get there at some point. So it's not like some places where there's like a big gap. And so I guess it's kind of like, I think that the VM module is the one place that I don't see anything going on. So that's maybe our highest value of doing something to try and
Okay.
See if we get some more going. The other ones I think are progressing along, and they'll pop out in the end. Is kind of.
Okay, yeah,
But
great.
if anybody, if you had a particular interest in one of those, or somebody listening does, they obviously both were like, "Hey, we could use more people helping out." But in terms of like having momentum, I think we're good there. So that was that observability then. So if we look at next steps there. I think there is an issue open for, like, there's a couple of issues, the life cycles. So actually, so I think this is. All right, so here we go. Okay. Actually, might as well commit these. Oops. Start. Okay, there was right here. This. Did I put that in the wrong? Oh no, that's right. Okay. All right. So sorry, we were looking at observability, so there is related work, and I guess I should put this entry hit point hooks is one of the things. Replacing trace events performance with Perfetto. I guess that would again be like a feature request kind of thing, probably.
Yeah, yeah, I think that was what I don't remember who talked about that. I think it was Matteo. Matteo was talking about that part, and a lot of projects are using an implementation of Perfetto, so it could be great to try that, but also check what change it will involve in core, at least.
Yeah, I almost wonder if we need like a prioritized feature requests or something. Because like the VM module thing too is kind of like a feature request, but again, it's like we could say like, here are the features that are prioritized that out of the next 10 work that things are not going on, right?
Yeah, because I would agree, because changing the trace model with Perfetto is not a big requirement, but on the other hand, working and changing entry point with ESM and loader and stuff like that would be a key feature for us to implement, because some people are blocked of using ESM or moving from CommonJS to ESM because they don't have the features they need on the new implementation.
Right.
So could be a way to prioritize some work being done. Yeah.
Right. Like a number of these, like even, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because there is some feature relation with feature requests. It's like, how do we, from this perspective, like we can't, this team is going to go and implement all these things, but like we can raise the profile of features that we want, that we think are important to success going forward. That's one way to kind of help or try to help to get work in these key areas.
Yep.
I see I have an action here. I'm going to put that in there as a reminder for me. So I think that probably makes this doc fairly up to date in terms of our current state of things. And I guess the question, like maybe here is, I wonder if we should add in like a green, red, yellow on each of these.
You mean to easily see what the progress on each part, or?
It's kind of like, are we done? Or are we, yeah, I easily see, say modern HTTP, are we done, or is there still work to be done on that front in terms of the technical priority, right? And like, it might be like, green is we're done, nothing to do. Yellow might be like, well, we're not done, but it looks like there's stuff going on. And then red might be, there's stuff we think is important, but nothing's happening.
It could be an easy way for newcomers, for people to have a quick overview. I think for more veteran people in Node Core, it's with a link to the peer and everything, they will be able to see that quite easily. But I would agree, this kind of flag system would be great, even more if we want to communicate about this kind of initiative outside. It's an easy way for people which are not really involved to have a quick overview, let's say.
Even I'm just thinking for us in terms of like where we would focus our discussion or not, right?
Oh yeah, also could be, could be good.
But anyway, maybe we can think about that, and next time we could decide whether we want to attach this, like get this landed, and then figure out what our sort of next steps are after that.
Yeah, if you want, I can just open an issue for the next 2 weeks, so this way we will remember talking about that.
Yeah, if you want to create an issue and then tag it for the agenda, that would actually be good, I think.
Yeah. I don't have the link. Could you just add me on, let's say, task to do for the next one on the meeting note for this one?
Right, sure. Let me find the minutes.
Yeah, thanks. I had an issue with my browser, so I closed everything.
Yeah, Jean will issue to look at
Yeah, advancement flag, I don't know, or completion, I don't know. Yep, should be great. I think I will also create 2 other issues just because I'm thinking about that. So I'm a bit ahead, sorry for that. We did discuss at the start of the year about documentation and stuff like that. And I will come back and I would like to open an issue about 2 main topics, which I think would be great to try to handle for at least the Node.js ecosystem. The first one would be about doing some translation work. I think we are now one of the last main framework / technology just being in English for the documentation, which is, I won't say it's an issue, but I think it can be, when you compare now Node.js with PHP, Java, or other ecosystem, I think we do lack this translation first.
This is on the API docs?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much could be every documentation, but would be the API documentation at least.
Okay, I know like the website has some support for translation and some things do take place.
Yeah, there is some support for that. I think I'm still one people having access to what we do with Crowdin to do some translation, but I think no one is updating or changing anything. So would like to try to push this initiative again, would be great.
Yeah, if they're volunteered, like I think the problem with the internationalization stuff is it kind of petered out, or the people who were involved no longer had time. So I guess, yeah, I mean, maybe it's a good question. Like, do we think internationalization or translation of docs is crucial for our success? If yes, then maybe it should be on our technical priority list and driven through that.
Yeah, I think it could be a great way to also involve the community. I did work on the React documentation translation team for French part, and it was quite nice to have. I think the main issue which were hard for people was how do we want to collaborate and work on that. But once this kind of system is in place, a lot of community members, let's say at least 3 to 5 per language are trying to be active and to push documentation. And I know that we were expecting to have just a main language translated, and with a community effort, we on React team, I think we did translate in around 30 different language, so which was quite nice, and working in parallel with a lot of people. So I think we do have to think about this part. I will open an issue and we can discuss that further in 2 weeks, next meeting, I think.
Having a discussion is that there's kind of like there's multiple different aspects. There's one like, do we think it's important to the future of Node.js? If yes, we should document that. Like if it's not just a nice to have, we should document it somewhere saying at least that we acknowledge this is really important even if we're not doing anything. Separately then is we find people to do something. But I think the next 10 is meant to be like, let's identify what's key future success, not tied to whether we can actually do it or not. Even if we say it is important, but we're not doing anything, that's good to at least understand. And that does probably fit underneath we didn't really get into that, I don't think, did we, in the documentation deep dive?
I think I did talk a bit about it during the deep dive. Maybe not this one. I just asked about it, and I think we wanted to discuss it a bit further later on, and we all forget about that because I also talk, I think, about the example repository. I think it was lately handled by the Comcom, and when the Comcom was dissolved, this initiative about example was also led to was forgotten by everyone, let's say.
Yep. Yeah,
So
that's a good thing to sort of bring up, and it could be a good discussion again as a topic for the collaborator summit, right?
Yeah. I think it would be great to have something about documentation, but maybe not directly API documentation, but how do we want to discuss about that? I will open 2 issues for this topic for the next 10, so we will be able to discuss it a bit further with everyone. Yeah. I will at least tag Tierney because I know he wanted to work on that, or it was one of initiative before that. So, and I will let you also add other people maybe would be keen to work on that with other people, or just add some input.
Yeah, I think we want to get like who are the right people to help us understand is internationalization key to future success? And you know,
yeah, maybe also some people from the OpenJS, maybe not OpenJS Foundation, but I'm thinking they won't also try to have a way to reach for everyone. And I think some documentation of projects inside the OpenJS Foundation are already translated in multiple languages. So it could be great to involve them on how they do that, processes and stuff like that.
Yeah. And even the foundation staff or people might be able to provide some input on like how important,
yeah, of course,
translations are, do we think, to success, JavaScript success, and in our case specifically Node going forward.
Yep.
Okay, that sounds good. We were pretty much at time. So I think that was a good discussion, a little bit of, thinking about what our next kind of steps are. And I think, yeah, one of the things we should think about over the next couple meetings is like what would some good sessions be at the next collaborator summit, because that's probably our next good opportunity.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
Okay, thanks. Nice talking to you, and we'll talk to you later. And thanks for anybody who's watching the recording as well. Bye.
Thank you.